Hey everybody, it's me, Angela Walters, and in this episode of the Midnight Quilter, I'm going to show you how strip units can blend together and create a gorgeous quilt. I've got my fabric, I've got my piecing potion, so let's get to it. The quilt I'm going to be making is a faded stripes quilt designed by yours truly. But don't let looks deceive you. This quilt pattern goes together quickly and easily thanks to my new best friends, strip units. For this quilt, I'm going to be using some prints from my inked fabric collection. I picked the feather as kind of the main piece, and then a nice cool teal and a gorgeous gray. I want the prints to coordinate with each other, but be different enough that they're going to stand out. One of my favorite things about this pattern is that it only uses 3 fabrics. So let's get to cutting. This is gonna blow your mind. Okay, not really, but to make a strip quilt, we're gonna need lots and lots of strips. To make cutting it go easier and quicker, I'm gonna be using the Stripology ruler from Creative Grids. The Creative Grids grip on the back means the ruler stays put and the cutting guides ensure that my strips are perfectly straight. Okay, so I have a bit of a confession to make. There's a reason why I designed this quilt pattern with only 3 fabrics. Honestly, I'm not good at picking out fabrics for quilts. I know it's shameful, and I call myself a quilter. I mean, it's not because I haven't tried. I'm usually good about picking out 3 colors, but once I get past 3, my brain goes all mushy. Picking quilting threads? No problem. Show me the quilt top and I can come up with all different kinds of thread options. Make me actually pick the fabrics? Game over. That's why I decided to take it easy on myself for this quilt and only need 3 different fabrics. Some people might call it cheating. I just call it smart quilting. But even though I'm only using 3 fabrics in this quilt, the strip units are going to give it a much more complex look. Once I'm done cutting, it's time to start making my strip units. Using my thinner strips, I'm going to lay them out in 2 groups of 4, some using these 2 fabrics and others using these 2 fabrics. Then it's time to sew them together. Nothing complicated here, just some mindless sewing. But to get those nice straight seams, I'm going to get a little help from these seam guides, which will make the next steps of this quilt go much easier. I'm going to double down and add another row on the other side of the strips. I like to think of them like bumpers at a bowling alley. No gutter balls for me. So I'm going to start just by sewing these in groups of 2. One of the nice things about only having 3 different fabrics is there's a lot less chance I'm going to make an error sewing the wrong pieces together. Now I know you might be thinking, but Angela, how could you not be good at picking out fabrics? All of the Midnight Quilter quilts are so beautiful with your fabric placement. At least in my head, that's what I think you're saying. But I have something to confess. To be honest, I have a lot of help with that. This is Irene. She helps me with all the Midnight Quilter episodes. She helps with the samples, keeps me on track, and most importantly, helps me pick out the fabric. By help, I mean she does it for me. But this stack of fabric I picked out all by myself, with a little help from Irene, of course. Once I have all the strip units pieced, I get to spend some quality time with my least favorite quilting notion, the iron. Hey, don't take it personally, I just don't like ironing. Pressing these strip units correctly will make the sub-cutting go a lot easier. So while I do like to rush through things, this is going to be one of those I don't rush through. I'm going to use a nice hot iron with no steam. That's going to keep it from stretching the fabric. And I guess you could press the seams open if you'd like, but I'm just going to press them all to one side. And to make it go even more smoothly, I'm going to use a wool mat that's going to kind of reflect the heat back up to those seams and give me that nice seam. I like to press it from the back and then flip it over and give it one last press on the front. One strip unit done. Let's iron some more. So pretty. I mean, of course, I'm biased, so there is that. It's like looking at pictures of your kids and being like, dang, my kids are cute. Now that I have a couple of these done, let's go ahead and subcut them into the sizes that we'll need so I can start putting it together. And this is where the genius of this technique is, because instead of cutting them really small and sewing them all together, I get to do it all at once. You know what's kind of funny is that somewhere along the line, somebody thought of this. Somebody was sitting around making a quilt with a lot of strips and thought, there's gotta be a better way. I don't know who that person was, but if I did, I'd want to shake their hand. I'm taking my time with the cutting because I don't want these to get all wonky on me. So I'm gonna line up the reference lines on my rulers with those seams, try to keep it straight, and then cut it into those sections. I'm gonna cut up both of these and then we'll finally get to start putting this together. Now that I have lots and lots of strip units, I can lay out the first column of my quilt. That's what makes this quilt so fun. It's pieced in columns, and that's where we get to see the blended effects come out. This is actually one whole column. This will be one, and then this will go on to the end. I just didn't have enough room to lay it all out. So I'm gonna sew this together nice and easy and show you what the first part looks like. Now that I've completed that first column, I've done the same thing, making 2 more columns with slightly different centers, and that's gonna make the first half of my first section. So I went ahead and recreated that, and you can see now this is gonna be a third of the quilt. Now what's great about this pattern is I could stop right here and have a bright, fun, beautiful bed runner, or I can make the 2 other sections and have my finished quilt top. I think I'm gonna make the quilt top. So let me get this assembled and I'll show you what it looks like. My quilt top is finished, and even though it only has 3 different fabrics, the blended effect makes it look so much more impactful. And now it's time for the best part of the machine quilting. I've already picked out my backing fabric, a nice soft gray with little hearts because I heart it. Although now that I think of it, that technically makes this a 4 fabric quilt. So maybe I'm expanding my skill set just a little bit. Well, I've got my backing, I'm gonna pick out my threads, and I'll see you at the sewing machine when we get to quilting. All right, I have my quilt sandwich basted, I have my threads picked out, but when it comes to quilting, I'm gonna keep it fairly basic and just do an all over the whole quilt. Since I'm going with an all over design, I'm gonna use something that's quick and easy to quilt. So I'm gonna go with an all over swirl design. It's nice and curvy, quick to quilt, and it looks gorgeous on this fabric. I'm gonna enjoy some mindless quilting, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all finished. And this quilt is finished. Now, I might struggle with picking out fabrics for quilts, but this pattern makes it a snap. Strip units make the quilt easy to piece and helps blend the fabrics together for a quilt that is much easier to make than it looks. And since the fabric is so bold and bright, I decided to quilt an all-over swirly design, and I couldn't be more pleased with how it turned out. And hey, did you know you can get the pattern and all the supplies you've seen in this video on my website? Just check the link in the description box below. I also have the kit in a second color option in case teal and gray aren't your thing. But one lucky quilter is going to win the kit for free. All you have to do is leave a comment below letting me know how much you like the fabric picking out process, and I'll pick a lucky winner next week. Well, I'll be back soon with another episode of the Midnight Quilter, and until then, happy quilting!